Well, hey, you've found us for yet another week.
We're
This is
here.
Small Biz, Big Ideas, with, of course, the best head of hair in small business, Charlie Dirador. Look at that hair.
Jiffy Pop,
I,
baby.
I mean, that's the good stuff. And what may shape up to be the second best head of hair in small business, this week's special guest, a true legend in the DMV, actually a true legend nationally. Kevin McKechnie.
Good to be with you, gentlemen. And I have no
Kevin,
idea
good
why
to
you're
meet you.
fixated on hair, Jim.
I,
I haven't,
I mean,
I've yet to understand this piece of it. I'm sorry. I don't understand it. He's got minimal upkeep. There's no product to buy.
It's that big
but
brain
you make it
on Jim, that
you
big
make
legal
it
brain.
you make it sound like the lack of hair is a business. You got minimal product. There's no upkeep. There's no
Everything's
insurance necessary
everything's a
for it.
business.
That's right. It's the condo of hairstyle.
But
I
listen,
like that.
Kevin, this is gonna be fun tonight. We're gonna have fun tonight.
I'm ready. Give
As
Amen.
me some.
So, Kevin, we always like to start out with just the pure D basics. Tell us about you.
Well, it's my favorite subject, as you may be aware, but and it gets better every time we write the introduction together, Jim. So thank you. That suspiciously terse introduction didn't work for me last time, but this time it's really kind of a nice thing. I have a foot in so many different camps. I have no idea which way I'm going because I am the eldest son of a university professor and judge, and it's an old Canadian family, but I was born in Madison, Wisconsin in the 60s. And so I'm an American. I call myself a Northern anchor baby because they weren't thinking about it at the time. It's a good joke though because they were credentialed to work in the United States. They had green cards and they did the most unexpected thing. Charlie, you'll never understand it. They went home. You never see that. And so they went back to Canada where I was raised and I stayed there through high school, got my first degree and came back to the United States in the mid 80s to go to graduate school myself. And I've been here the rest of the time watching this big, beautiful show unfold around me. And I
What's your
think
graduate degree in?
American history. When I was studying American history, this will appeal to people of a certain age, I hope, which is everybody who taught me American history at York University in Toronto was a draft dodger from the Vietnam War. And that's a certain perspective. And one gentleman was an actual storied historian. He was the AP reporter who rode down on the T-72 32s, 72s with the North Vietnamese Army for the Associated Press, announcing the fall of various cities along the way. His name was
Wow.
Gabriel Kolke. And he was not a draft dodger, he was too old. But he said if your passion for inquiry really is that strong, you need to go to graduate school. You need to study American history, but you need to study it in the place where it's made. And so I moved and went to school at American University to do exactly that. And the show goes on, and I've never been able to take my mind off the show. It's the greatest show on earth. That's why everybody's trying to get here.
Did you think about teaching?
Well, you do teach when you're a PhD student. They send you all these fresh-faced freshmen who come in a variety of flavors. You can see the light in some of them, and they want to hear the stories, and they know you can go out and touch it, and they want a guide. And you see the people who are just there, maybe to learn to write a little bit more, but they have to take it. They had to pick something. And then you see the people who maybe they play sports. They thought this was going to be easy, or there's some other version of that. And for reasons I will never understand and don't to this day, that spark of inquiry, the curiosity of why things are the way they are, it just never found them. And it was a tragedy then when I saw it in these young people, and it's still a tragedy when you see people who just they don't know about their country or they're misinformed or their assumptions are incorrect. But I enjoy reading it and I enjoy reading all sides of it. Doesn't matter what perspective it is. I can't wait to hear it.
What job or jobs do you have currently? And what job or jobs have you had in the past?
Hmm.
As a young man, say, what'd you start with?
So I'm the product of Scottish English heritage, which means the minute you can walk, they want to find out why you don't have a job. And so the first jobs, I was paper boy, starting when I was 7. I was delivering the paper in Toronto when the Blue Jays were an expansion team. My grandfather was a carpenter and a sort of man of all trades. He taught me carpentry and plumbing, and so I took that on too. As a teenager, odd jobs around the neighborhood, got paid to build things like basements and fences and decks. Moved on, got my first job in an office at a Nabisco affiliate called Christie Cookies while I was in undergraduate school in Toronto. And when I moved, I know the date, July 26, 1988. And I moved here to go to school. I didn't have a job. And to me, it was terrifying. So 2 days later, I was a bartender in Georgetown. And I did that for 3 years and made my way to the gates of association management, and then eventually as a staffer to the House and Senate by virtue of either attending or bartending private parties in Georgetown. And some guy was nice. He says, "Well, this is a good gig, but would you like to come see what we really do in this town?" It's like, yes, I would very much. And so I ended up going to work for him. Went to work in the House for all those what I thought were crazy Republicans from Orange County, California. Turns out they're middle of the roaders compared to the cats that are there now. Uh, Made my way to an insurance company where I became a broker and their lobbyist, and then made my way to the largest financial trade association in the world, American Bankers Association.
What it's an interesting move from carpentry and plumbing to bartending to working in the house.
Could be. I enjoyed all of them, but I know why trades are a satisfying job. And it's because I can do something for you, Charlie, for a price and hand you something that didn't exist till I showed up. And there's both of us are going to experience this feeling of having something new and something concrete, as opposed to an opinion, which is what most of the rest of these jobs are about. It's your opinion. And they occasionally dip into factual content, which is how you form opinions if you're a functioning adult. But there is something that's irreplaceable about a job in the trades. And I'm a huge supporter of those, not just because I did it, but because I know what I'm delivering to you. It's going to make your life better.
I was at a party one night with an old friend of mine I had gone to school with for years.
Hmm.
And he was a very successful criminal defense lawyer. And our kids went to school together, and we were at his house for a school get together, parents get together. And Russell said to me, you know, I not only admire you, I would love to do what you do. And I said, but you're a lawyer. I mean, you went to Duke University. He said, yeah. He said, anybody with half a brain can walk into a jail cell, make a promise that they're going to do the best job they can to try to help somebody get off the hook, and then work with whatever they've got, facts, not
Yeah.
facts, innuendo, not innuendo. He said, but at the end of the day, you build a building or you take an old building and make it new again, and you've got something to show for it. Now, am I a carpenter? No. Am I a plumber? No. But am I somebody who can look at something and tell you what it's supposed to look like when it's finished, the entire product, vision, if you want to call it that? I hate that word utilized by me about me. But if you can see something and make it happen, that's what he was talking about. And I think that's what you're talking about is that
Yeah, that's
someone
right.
comes to you as a carpenter and says, hey, I need, you know, a 10 by 15 room built onto the house. How do I do it? Don't worry about it. I got it. Let me show you how. And
Yeah.
we're going to have a draftsman work on the plans, and then we're going to get them stamped, and we're going to go to the city, and but you're there holding this person's hand that doesn't have clue one as to what
Yeah, that's right.
they it takes to get what they want. And
That's
then what you
true.
were describing at the end, you're giving them what they want.
You are
So
giving them what they want, and I should probably be clear because I'm more like before there were Home Depot guys, there were guys like me. And so the part where you get everything stamped and certified, I did something a little different, which was I would go to the old homes in a place called Port Credit, Ontario, that the people who lived in those places, maybe something leaked, maybe the stairs were creaky, or one of the treads was broken, and I would just for cash I would fix it And when I started, maybe 16, 17 years old, my dad or my grandfather drive me over. Do you remember tools that actually had cords? That's how long it was ago. No, nobody sells those anymore. And so you'd help people for cash fix their home. And it doesn't matter what it was. Maybe get a couple more shingles on a roof because it was leaking. Maybe drywall the rest of a pantry, or make the pantry in the first place, or replace those wooden steps that went up to the porch or the railing on the porch. It was that kind of thing. The genuine professionals that are out there, I've hired a few ones in my neighborhood. He had to fix my house because we had this horrible leak, took out 2 floors. That guy is a genuine professional. I just had the skills my grandfather taught me, and I figured out how to turn that into cash because I paid attention. It's reasonably good at it. And but it's the same effect, which is when you leave, whoever the customer is, they're very happy with you. It was a fair price, and something that wasn't really working for them is now working. And that's a really good feeling. It's a satisfying feeling, is what it is. And I suppose since we're truth telling tonight, it does stroke the ego a bit when you leave, if someone has a really good opinion of you, they don't know anything about you, but they know that you made their life a little better. And that's enough for me.
Yeah. It's interesting we're having this conversation because earlier today I was on LinkedIn and someone posted something and it was a cartoon and it was a beaver with a hard hat. And the beaver
Yeah,
said, "Hey, it's about time that people realize that going to trade school is every bit as important as going to a 4-year university." And
no
I
question.
actually did what I rarely do, which is I reposted that and I
Well, good
put
for you.
one word above it. Absolutely. Because listen, first of all, everybody has a talent.
Yes, that's right.
There are some people who trying hard not to prove that, but everybody has a talent. And the reality is everybody, you know, being able to bolster people in that talent, there is no talent that's more important or more relevant than another. And in the trades, especially as we look toward a world of what AI is going to be, AI is not going to fix that floor or fix that rail or put that shingle on the house for you. It's
No,
not going to sit there and look at what's wrong with your house
that's right.
and diagnose it. My guy who does all my work for me, Bob, listen, I could, no matter what the problem is, Bob could come out here and look and look and look and say, Jim, your problem is one, two, three. And you know what? Bob ain't been wrong yet since I met
Yep.
him.
You said something fascinating, and it plays into this theme, which is he does my work for me. And we're still living in the shadow of World War II, where everybody knew how to do basic things because nobody had any money. And so there were no people that couldn't do the basic things to those post-war cookie cutter new development houses because they were built to be simple and they were lived in by people that had skills. They were courageous and they traded, which is a key to a small business dynamic. Hey, I know everything about cutting wood and making it fit, but I don't know anything about electricity. Can you come over and help me out? Absolutely. I'll come over and help you out. That's how the neighbor thing builds, and I like that. And it's the feeling of community is good. We do it here in our neighborhood, and you just become much closer to people that way.
Yeah.
Kevin, what do
So
you do now?
Pardon me?
What's your job now? What is your job now?
Oh, well, I have these wonderful titles at ABA because I made them myself, and it goes like this. I'm the executive director of the Health Savings Account Council and the Office of Insurance Advocacy at the American Bankers Association. That is my main job. I serve on the board of directors of several other companies, and I'm chairman of two. And they are technology companies or finance companies that are by definition very small. They're mostly pre-revenue or very nascent in the marketplace. And I do all of those things because why not? If you have the ability to branch out and do things that don't conflict with your main employment, you should. And it's also something, it helps you learn. You gain more skills through the practical application of commerce than you do sitting around reading about commerce. Uh, it's amazing how few people understand give the customer what they want. They don't know what that means at all. And you learn it by trying to figure out, well, what is my market for this widget or this service or this financial instrument? Who's going to buy it? You go out and you talk to the people and you find the answer to that question. That's what I do with my day.
What the two companies you're running, what do they do specifically, if you can talk about that? And how did you start them? And what brought you to a point of saying, this is a necessary item or service,
Sure.
this is a necessary item or service? And then how did you finance it? How did it work? If you don't mind,
No, happy to help.
excavate for us
Sure.
the site that is your or are your two businesses, or you can pick one and just give us that one if you'd like.
Sure. Well, there's one in particular that has been around for a while that you haven't heard of, but shortly you will, and it's called U-Control, and they produce a device that they call the Q key, and this key is like a lot of things in the cybersecurity world, sort of a next level multi-authentication device that, by virtue of both its engineering and its software application, for the time being, unhackable. And we've had companies run at it for quite a while to solve two problems. Can you penetrate the software? Can you compromise the hardware? One other vector, can you, if we gave one to Charlie, can we convince Charlie to use it for nefarious purposes? And so far, the answer has been no. That company was fascinating because it solves a problem in the marketplace, which is we're all being hacked to our knees every day, whether you know it or not. And people come and do this. This is not my idea. And that's really important thing because I know lots of people would have ideas. They don't know if their ideas are going to be revenue ideas or they're just good ideas. But there's ideas everywhere. And if you go to places like Money 2020 or any of these big conferences, the guys in front have capital. The guys, as you make your way through the hall, need capital. And then there's a whole bunch of people with PowerPoints in the back. I have a good idea, but I have no idea how to operationalize my idea. I show up in companies on boards at their invitation at the moment where the angel investors and the inventors are having a disagreement about what's the new direction. And that happens because if you are about to scale your idea and operationalize it, you're going to grow out of angel investing and you're going to make your way to professional money. And the professional money is going to take most of your company. They're going to demand seats on the board of directors. They're going to demand that you um, hand over most of your stock or that you dilute the people who started the company in the first place. And I do a lot of what Jim does, which is whether you're a lawyer or something else, our sweet spot is negotiating with people. And we help people see I like your word, Charlie, what is the vision for this thing? Well, if you define it and you look around the room and everybody in this board says, that's it, well, then you can make choices about who needs to be in that room and who doesn't, and who may have made a huge contribution, but that contribution and the time for it is past. And so if you really do believe in the vision, you really do believe in the company, it's time for you to step back. And I've stepped into those places, negotiated, ended up being put in charge of a board, not the executive side, because I have a day job, but you get put in charge of the board and you help angel money negotiate with professional money, and you try to manage, in some cases, the very hurt feelings of the founder who thought he was going to bring it all the way to the finish line all by himself. And that I've never seen.
Are you negotiating the professional money to take out the angel money?
Yes. And so what we're trying to tell the professional money is let's not get greedy. Maybe we can define some investment steps, let's do some pilot programs where if we hit some development marks, yes, you will get the company, but you need to make the greatest number of angels and just people, our investor pool. You got to make those people whole and then some. How do you want to do that? And there's a couple of ways you can do that, that sometimes dilution is the only path forward. Sometimes you don't have to dilute anybody, but the people who are the current investors need to have faith that over here, when the great big giant company buys you and you're getting ready to sell that thing to them, they're going to have a stake in that sale. And that's when the investment will actually mature and pay off.
So, Kevin, a lot of people, go into business, and that's their dream, right? Is
Absolutely.
to scale it up, and
Yeah.
then either make it into a big old thing or a big old thing that somebody else can buy. They make their money, they move off and they do other things. What would you say, a couple of through line issues you see with folks as they're trying to actualize that dream?
Probably the biggest impediment is there's one celebratory moment, and that's when someone with a great idea convinces someone else that it's great as well and gives them money. And that's premature, right? I mean, you haven't even got to the first gate. You now have a bucket of money, and you have an obligation to prove to the person who just gave it to you, hey, I can actually do what I told you I could do in that PowerPoint. A lot of people fail right then and there. And they fail because it's a great idea, but you can't get the tools cut, or if it was something like software, you can't see software. And so, an irony, I don't invest in software. I can't grab it. I can't take it with me. I can't read it at night. And so, I follow the Warren Buffett thing. I only invest in stuff that I know about. Okay, well, that's one failure, which is now you've got some money, but you can't operationalize. Well, someone else comes along and says, okay, well, you need more than one guy funding, and you don't have a CFO, and you don't have a chief operating guy, and you need one. And so, what did you do? Well, I've already promised all these people 80% of my company. Well, that's mistake number two, because you only have 20% to give away to the people you're expecting to pay for the creation of this great idea. Okay, so now you have to either go back, dilute everybody, or you have to find a way to um, collect capital without dilution. Usually, the best way to do that is a convertible note. And so, someone is going to lend you money at a certain rate defined for a term, and if it doesn't work out, well, then we'll give you stock. And now you're on the clock, right? Like we have to succeed in 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, or we're going to go bankrupt because we're never going to be able to pay these guys back. And 20% of nothing is nothing. And so that, if you have the courage of your convictions, you can take that route because it'll move you forward. The other part, though, is, and there's several other parts, but I suppose the next stage, just to simplify it, is if you don't know who ultimately you want to be your acquisition partner is going to be, then you're engineering in a direction and you have no idea where you're headed. No clue. And some of the great companies of the world have been built that way. They have. And so it's not like that path hasn't been taken. It has, and they're household names. But if you're just trying to sell a company that you think is worth 100 million bucks, it's probably worth 30 million bucks. You may have about 300 or 400 investors. That money is going to get divided reasonably quickly, and you're going to have debts. And so realism is always a casualty. And you can make it simple for all the people who have companies. I don't know anybody that has tried to sell their car that doesn't realize their car is not worth what they're trying to get for it. Everybody thinks their car is worth a lot more because it's their car. Yeah, sure. But whatever you've got is only worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. And go to an auction and you can prove that principle correct every day you want to.
Right. Right. It's taken, you got to remove the emotion out of
You
things,
have to.
right? Because
That's right.
you've given your, sweat equity. There's always tons of jokes about sweat equity,
It's
right?
true.
Your sweat ain't my equity.
It's
So,
true.
you know, um,
And inventors have a passion. That's why they're inventors. And then they come up against professional money, and the professional money doesn't care about you. They go to the first meeting wanting to hear about who they could sell it to. That's what's in their head. They're waiting to hear about, why should I come and talk to you? Because I'm about to go and play golf with the development officer team or some capital team that's used to doing business with Meta, with eBay, with the big socials. Give me something I can sell to those guys. How does this work? And you need to be ready for that moment. If you're in that business. Like I said, I haven't had a share of a limousine business. Very, very different business. And in some ways more satisfying because it's simpler, right? That's about revenue. How do you make revenue? If you walk outside and see all your limousines in your driveway, no revenue today. You don't want to ever see those cars from the minute you get them out of the dealership. You want to hear that they're working. That's a whole different story.
What would you say to, some small business? Let's say it's a guy who wants to start a taco truck, right?
Sure.
What would you say are the probably two or three biggest things they need to be prepared to deal with kind of immediately, realistically deal with immediately?
Sure. Well, I don't own a taco truck. And so if I was going to start one, I would go get a job in a taco truck. And I would do it for about 120 days until I realized, well, what's the story here? You need to have a quality product, but you have more than that. Did you get the right space? Does the city regulate where you can park the truck? What kind of shape is the truck in? Because if you go out and try to start it and it doesn't start, no revenue for you today. And so if you're trying to enter a crowded field, enter it at the lowest level so you can find out what the dynamics are before you spend all your money and all your time and you're not successful. Find out why someone who's already in that space is successful. Learn it all. Step one. Step two is once you've crossed that important bridge, if you really do think that you've now mastered the art, you have enough information to start making your investment. What are you going to invest in? Are you going to overinvest in the ingredients? Or are you going to overinvest in the equipment? And is it just going to be you? Or are you going to hire someone like me in the previous model? Go, yeah, now you two guys are going to, you're the guy that's going to help him cook, and you're the cook. And the other one would be, are you going to take cash or not? Because the treasury is the treasury. And a cash business is a cash business. And without implicating anybody's morality or accusing anybody of anything, what you take in isn't always what you realize. And so, are you going to be in the plastic business? That means you're going to cough up 3 to 5% just in the interchange. You need to have that in your spreadsheet. But every bill says this bill is legal to settle all debts, public and private. Some people will insist you take cash. Okay, so you need a strategy. You also need, dare I say it, insurance. And so is that spreadsheet going to be as comprehensive as you know? They never are. Everybody that builds a business has one big problem. They end up financing it on their Visa card because they left off a whole bunch of stuff on their budget. That's what I would tell them. I'm old, despite my supernaturally youthful appearance, Jim. I'm old. And so I know a little bit about spreadsheets and budgets and what you can leave out. And it must be a horrible thing if you had a dream and you're 24 and you're doing the best you can and you're tired, and then someone gets burned from the deep fryer and says, I got to go to the hospital. Well, that's on you. Do you have workers' comp? Oh, I didn't know I needed it. Oh, that's bad. Because now not only is that bill on you, now the city's after you. Now, the good news is you can't get a license unless you prove insurance. And so the system is built for you to get through some of those gates. But it's a daunting task. I've watched back when they had actual cabs as opposed to Ubers. I've watched guys try to put together, the one that I remember most vividly was a kiosk in a mall. And he was going through the paperwork the mall gave him that would allow him to put a kiosk in a mall. And it was for his wife. She was going to be the one that wanted the kiosk. He was obviously funding it. And in between fares, I mean, it was all out. It was in the wheel well, it's everywhere. And language is a barrier. English was his second. He's looking at it, oh my God, how do I get through all of this stuff? Because it was incomprehensible. What do they need? They need insurance. How do you get insurance? You got to spend money. No revenue yet, just expense. And that's the thing I would tell all the young people. It's going to be expense heavy early. Then there's going to be some revenue. Then there's going to be some problems. And so, what's your plan to manage that? You're going to use credit lines. You're going to use the bank of dad. Perfectly reasonable lender, by the way. Let's always point that out. But you need to have a plan for some liquidity and the unknown.
It
And no one
sounds
knows
like
what it's going to
Tommy.
be.
We had a guest on two shows ago, and Tommy was speaking your language. And your language really is the language of preparation.
Yes, that's right.
And preparation is not just so. Part of the reason I decided to join Jim in this journey of doing this podcast, and it's been great, and it's going to continue. I think it's going to get better. Even though it's been great, I do believe it's going to get better as we hone our skills. But one of the reasons I decided to do it is, and I'm looking around this room right now, it might be here somewhere. There's a book that was written in the mid 90s called The E Myth.
Hmm.
And it is about, it's been printed millions of times now. It's about why small businesses fail
Absolutely.
because the vast majority of small businesses fail.
They do.
That's why I'm here. That's why Jim's here. Obviously, you didn't know that, but that's why you're here too. Because what you've described is what the author describes given a baker.
Sure.
Betsy's a great baker. Betsy's cherry pies are terrific.
Hmm.
Um, Bill's tacos are the best.
Right.
Bill went and found a taco truck. Bill's prepping the taco truck. But unless Bill has a guide, Bill's not going to know licensure, fees, fee structures, uh, insurance, uh, lending. But
Hmm.
he knows tacos.
They're very good.
They're
But
terrific tacos.
what you described as a chief operating officer, he doesn't know anything about tacos. He knows
But
everything about licensure.
but I guess the question I'm trying to get at is if you were starting the taco truck,
Hmm.
aside from going and working in a taco truck for, I think you said 120 days, I would have said a year.
It's reasonable if it was a restaurant. And I've tried that too. I spent some time and I declined to go forward with partners for the reasons we've been describing. It was, the restaurant did not work out long term. But Georgetown's full of restaurants that have, and they all have one thing in common, which is the guys that started those restaurants diversified quickly with partners. And instead of someone had a dream, it was like this: three buddies had a dream, but they realized it wasn't enough guys. And so then they wanted got a few more guys. Then somebody smart said, it's a restaurant. Is the food any good? So the chef needs a piece. He should be a partner without having to contribute any money. We need to have that. Okay. The rule of thumb in a restaurant, if you don't have 18 months in the bank, don't even bother. It's not worth the trouble. You've got to break in and make a reputation.
It's funny, Jim, because I guess I ought to tell him what I do.
Yeah.
I build restaurants for people.
You build
Uh,
them.
I own the building. You come to me with an idea. I tell you, fine. Um,
You must know Rick Berman.
yeah.
There you go.
Um, and it all comes from having worked behind a pharmacy counter, having been around my father for years. Jim's got the same experience with his dad. I mean, a lot of this that brought this podcast together is here you've got this guy from Eastern Texas and a guy from Richmond working on the transition work that we did for the now governor when she was the governor elect, and we were finishing each other's sentences. But to get back to what you were saying and try to dig it in a little deeper, as far as the businesses that you are in now,
Hmm.
aside from your day gig, I'll call it, how did you find the expertise you needed to fill the gaps you knew existed in your knowledge base?
Well, you guys are very polite, and like I said, I'm older than I look, and the challenge is you get a little bit wiser. How do you get good judgment? By experiencing the results of bad judgment over and over and over again. And hopefully you get to learn those lessons remotely as you watch other people. But I've made plenty of mistakes. And out of those plenty of mistakes, occasionally there's success. I am not a CFO. And so when I look over at books that aren't complete, I don't do it. I know how to raise money. Let's go and raise some more capital and hire the right people to fix this little company. And so the first guiding principle is what is your sweet spot and what are your limitations? And those are board members. Those are people that, okay, you've told me about your restaurant, for example. Tell me about your chef. Well, we got this guy. He made some food the other night. It was pretty great. Okay, that that didn't tell me much about your chef. That told me a little bit about what the minimum requirements for a good meal are at your house. Have you professionalized your company? And if you are around financial operations all the time, you can tell when the professional operation is there because you will see the file folders start to stack up, whether they're visual, whether they're right there in front of you and they're tangible. You can see the team that's put together who thought about what's down the road, what's next. We have the here and now, but how are we going to get where we're going? In the company that I described, the gap was most of the funding is not built up. It's always potential energy. So there's maybe 5 or 6 guys in your contributor pool, your investor pool, who are good for another $100,000 if. And that if could be different for each of them. So you go talk to them. And so that's one way to fill those gaps. The other way to fill those gaps could be, I mean, really rudimentary. Has this company filed any of its tax returns? Have you returned any of your securities forms to the registrar in, say, Nevada, where you registered the company? Do you have employees? Okay. Show me that you've got all the right employee benefits and all that stuff in place, or that you've got contracts with them that say they're independent contractors and they're owed stock, not money. Do you have a book? And it usually comes down to a binder. And in another company, it's we both raised money and used this one document as a disclosure vehicle, private placement memo. And in that memo, it tells you everything about the company. Here's who the board of directors are. Here's who the C-suite is. This is the cash position of the company. This is the product we're hoping to build. Here's our projections for revenue in the future. Here's a number of disclosures mandated by statute. And then, of course, there's the inevitable narrative about what this is going to be and why you would be a horrible fool to ever give us money, because most of these things could fail. You are putting capital at risk as a potential investor. You need to know that. Now, how many people know what a PPM is, have the skills necessary to define it for themselves, and can actually build one? Well, that's a very unique group of people. And usually it's collaborative. The guy who puts his hand up who says he can do the accounting fills in your balance sheet. Then you've got your chief operating officer. He's on insurance and registrations. What was your vision? You can leave that to the founder because he can't wait to tell you. Now he needs to tell the investors in writing, and you need to put it together, and it needs to be almost a sacred holy book for that first round of funding because you can't change it. Once you start asking people for money and giving people stock at a certain price, everybody gets the same price, which I guess would bring us to big, big mistake number 4. That lure of capital, especially when you're desperate, makes people do crazy things. Don't do it. You can get into a huge amount of trouble.
Yeah.
Same
Well,
deal for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are.
yep. Well, and I think some people forget two things. Number one, the process is the process is the process is the process.
Mhm.
Everybody's going to pay taxes, which means
Everybody.
everybody's going to file a return, which means you're going to have to always be good with the government. Number one,
Always.
you're going to have to all that is a non-negotiable,
That's right.
holy grail kind of thing. And there, in my and when I was in defense, we used to talk about this all the time. And Kevin, I know you definitely have seen this one. There is no amount of money you can make that will forever cover up all of your warts.
Never.
Meaning, if your warts are that big, you could be the money could be coming in so fast you can't even count it all, and it will catch up to you
Always.
because it is inevitable in the cycle. It's the process, and the process says if you are not doing the right thing, you will pay.
Yes.
It will catch up to you
In
eventually.
all cases.
Yes.
Good. I couldn't agree with that more. And that's a scalable principle, which is it doesn't matter whether you're trying to start a taco truck, a restaurant, a hardware company, or a limousine company. Get yourself square with the forces of the government. Number one thing. Well, number two thing. you do have to start your business. It's
Right.
important to start it in compliance. And some businesses come into compliance. Some businesses, by their nature, have to start in compliance. And if you're trying to float a stock company, you are starting in compliance.
Yeah, the biggest the biggest complaint the biggest complaint I hear from small business people, well, we all hear taxes, but is regulation.
Always.
And you hear it from people who um, vote for anybody,
Sure.
right? Everybody has the same gripe about
Sure.
regulations.
There's good reasons why.
What are they?
Well, first is the misconception that this country only has two parties. It doesn't. It has Democrats, Republicans, and money. And money has its own rules. It's attracted to like. And so it just doesn't care what your affiliations are.
Doesn't give, yeah.
I caught myself. It might be a family channel, Charlie.
It's a family channel.
I didn't want to offend. But understand that first. The second part is, this is just my own view. My own view is we've watched broad civic non-compliance in two extremely important areas. One of them around cannabis and one of them around immigration. And young people, I think, can be forgiven for first being confused and second, thinking that maybe laws are more a little on the guideline side than actual laws. Because every day they get up, they watch broad non-compliance in those two big areas. And something is done about it on occasion, sometimes not. But then you move over to these celebrated super gajillionaires who made an entire business out of not following the established rules. And the best example I have are people someone under 25 probably wouldn't even know about. These people called travel agents that don't exist anymore. You could talk to the cab drivers, if you can find one. Vanishingly few at this point because they've been disintermediated by a technology that didn't care about your medallion and it didn't care about your livery contracts. That put an extra burden on things like airports who had to establish their own regulatory regime because someone showed up in their aunt's Camry and started picking up passengers and claimed they didn't have to do what the forces of government said they had to do. And we went along with that. What else is being disintermediated? Well, look around. That's the whole game. Try to figure out how to deliver a service faster without having to go through the government hoops to get there. Well, that is a classic tech bro approach with risk, right? You have to do it at scale early. So you have a whole group of people that would be pissed off if the government takes it away from you. And if you took away some of those ride sharing services at this point, the hue and cry would be nobody would be able to get you.
Oh,
No one would
yeah.
be.
And I remember when it started. I'm sure you do too. I'm sure you do too as well, Jim. I was at a conference with my wife. My wife's a physician.
Hmm,
And someone was saying that, hey, there's this thing out there. It's called Uber.
that's right.
And you're going to be able to take your phone and you're going to be able to say, I am X spot and I need to go to Y spot. And you're going to put it in your phone and it's going to notify the driver. And you should have seen the doctors looking at each other going, this is the biggest load or shit I've ever heard of in my life.
That's right.
And 3 years later, all those same people were out front of a conference going, my Uber's almost here.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right.
That's exactly what
So,
happened.
and I see the same thing happening with cable television. I think
Sure.
cable's within 5 to 7 years gone.
Oh, I think that's right.
1 to 2. I think
It could be.
linear is about cooked at this point.
Well,
But this leads me to the question I'm going to ask you because it gives us hope. I don't know where we are time wise,
doesn't matter.
but my hope, it does.
Oh,
It does for Jim to put it out in a package. It does.
oh, I see.
My hope is that from this conversation and conversations in the past and conversations in the future on this podcast, we can alert people to the fact that it's going to be two economies.
Hmm.
Now, it is two economies now, but they're going to be much more delineated. It's going to be the do economy and the invest economy.
Yes, I can agree with that.
And the do economy is going to be heavy, real heavy. People who are in HVAC and plumbing and electrical are going to be very, very wealthy. They aren't going to be billionaires,
No.
but they are going to be, as a famous book said once, the millionaire next door.
Yes. Yes. And in some ways, they already are.
And so, what, how close are we on time, Jim?
10.
Aside from telling the plumber that has been working for the big plumbing company for 10 years and has started to get some side jobs on the weekend and says, hell, I can get a couple of vans and Jim's going to come with me because Jim and I have been working together. And he said, hell, I'll come with you if you start a company. And Bob and Jim's, or Bob's Plumbing, and Jim's going to work for him. And they're going and looking at real estate, and they're talking to people about, look, family member X, I need Jerry, I need 10,000.
Hmm.
Mom, I need, that 50,000 you got sitting there. I'll give you that back with interest. Um, and he does $100,000 raise,
Hmm.
right? Over 3 or 4 people.
Hmm.
What's the one thing you would tell Bob a year in? And Bob is pulling his hair out saying, I've got plenty of jobs coming in. I've got another truck on order. I've got two master plumbers, me and Jim, but and I've got two journeyman kids with me that are working for us, helping us,
Yeah.
schlepping tools and whatnot. But I can't keep up with my books. I can't keep up with the taxes. I can't keep up with what would you tell that person? Because you're in a unique position.
Hmm.
You're in a government relations job, correct?
Yeah.
Can I call it that?
Sure.
But you're also a small business person. So what would you tell Jim a year in when I'm sorry, Jim, I shouldn't be talking about hair, but when he's pulling,
He's not sensitive about it.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it.
I walked right
That's
into it.
that's called a callback, boys and girls. Um, while he's pulling his hair out, how do you calm Jim down and say, Jim, we're going to fix this, and this is how we're going to fix it?
Sure. People fail to appreciate the height of that wall between doing and investing. And I've had enough time on the planet to realize how high the wall was for me and to find out what side of it I was best suited for. I'm best suited for investing. I can do a couple of things. That's true. If you call me on the weekend and say, can you move the couch? Can you drywall a patch? Can you swap out the innards of my toilet? Can you put a deck on my house? I'll help you. I can do that. That's not a business. That's a hobby. You need to find out whether you can cross over. If you're doing, do you know how to do the things Bob can't figure out how to do because he's pulling his hair out? And if you don't, you hire that. All skills are hireable. Some skills are more easily hireable than others. Who's better with paperwork? Well, it might be your wife. It could be your grandmother. She can't come and carry lumber on the job site, but she can sit all day at her dining room table and start filling out those forms you don't have time to fill out. You're going to have to figure out what skill sets get plugged in, and you need to know the height of that wall. Because if it's going to be you and you're going to scale it, and either if you're on the investment side and you see a gap, you're like, no, I got to start doing. I got to go out and get more customers. I got to go out and make sure my jobs are done at a certain quality. Well, then who's going to do all the work you just abandoned? That's a question you have to answer. And I'll use myself. My neighbor is a great dude. He's former college basketball player, and he is a organizer and an investor with contractor skills. He's not a contractor. He goes out and he hires family crews. Now he knows the same ones, but this is 3 generations of dudes in a white van full of tools and cords and stuff. And they show up at your house and they start working, and their wives drive food to them at lunchtime. They sleep for 45 minutes in their vans, and then they're back at it. And they don't fill out forms. They barely speak English. They have no idea about taxes. That's what Brad's for. And so he's the investor masquerading as a contractor. They're very clear that they are contractors, and they have no idea how to be the investor yet. Because someone in that extended family, maybe another generation later, who will have gone to school in the United States, whose language skills will be better, who learned math past seventh grade, which probably these people didn't, that person is going to be able to climb that wall and become the investor and organize those families into an actual company. Organizing it into a company is the skill set that's always the one that's missing because and we can prove it to you. Well, in the Trump area, you may not be able to prove it as easily as you used to be able to prove it to yourself. Go to Van Nuys, California. You can prove it to yourself. Go to the Home Depot at Van Nuys, California. I've been. This is why I can tell you. You will find all the usual guys standing around in the lot that'll put all the tile in your bathroom, that'll put all that vinyl down on your floor, that'll reshingle your roof. Okay, well, those aren't small businesses. Those are laborers. The small business is the one who gathers them up and says, I'll tell you what, if you give me 5% of your wages, I'll give you guys the chance to come and get a job and get a green card. And then you'll be working for ABC Contractors of Van Nuys, California, and you'll have your foot in the door. What do you say? That's a contractor. And to me, that's the biggest difference. You have to scale the wall between those skills, or you have to find a way to plug them in.
I think
My
that's
grandfather was a doer. He taught me all those skills. He did not have a company. He didn't have the skills to build one. He could build anything in your house, but he couldn't build a company. Couldn't make it over that wall.
I think that encapsulates it all, right?
I think that
Your ability has to align. And you
That's right.
more than ability, your capability has
That's
to
right.
align. And if you're not capable of something, it's not going to magically happen overnight that you're
There's
going to,
no magic here.
right?
So that's the other, there's no magic at all. There's hard work and more of it. But those principles translate in whatever it is. Oh, I want to start an insurance company. Okay, are you going to buy it? Are you going to build it? Are you going to rent it? Well, it's the same problem a bunch of plumbers have when they're trying to figure out how to put 6 trucks on the street. You're going to buy it? You're going to build it yourself? You're going to join a company that's already there and add 2 more trucks to it. You're going to make a deal? How do you know it's a good deal? These are real problems, and you know, schooling helps. Education helps better. Schooling is a little different sometimes, and
yes,
I greatly prefer
that
schooling.
is that. Okay, of all the things that have been said tonight, that is the most insightful thing. Schooling is one thing. Education cannot
Well, and
cannot beat education.
I would be committing fraud against a great American hero. That's from Mark Twain. I never let my education get in the way of my
We have a
school.
schooling. I forgot. Excellent callback. That was fabulous. That was good stuff there.
Yeah. And you know what? You can never beat Mark Twain. So
No,
we're going to call it on that. So Mr. Kevin McKechnie, as always, it
No
is
problem.
always an honor and a pleasure to have you drop a little knowledge. Charlie,
Yeah, man. It was fun.
last 30 seconds, you got anything to throw out?
Yeah, I do actually. I would urge our listeners to do a couple of things. One, like it and subscribe to it on YouTube. Like it and subscribe to it on all the platforms. But be real in everything that you do. A friend of our family's passed away this week.
I'm sorry to hear that.
She was a very alive person.
Makes it worse.
Everything she did 100%, whether it was raising her children, whether it was skiing, whether it was working out, whether it was running a household. And this pink band came out since she passed away this weekend. I win stuff. She used to say, I win stuff. I win stuff. Don't don't skip. Don't skip.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't miss things. Don't have an opportunity and miss the opportunity. Take the opportunity, even though you might fail. And that's why we're here with this podcast, because of the rate of failure in small business, because failure only exists if you allow it to exist. Failure is learning.
Well, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I agree with
And
that.
her
100%.
passing away has hit a lot of people in Richmond very, very hard.
Mhm.
And it has reminded me personally that I'm not allowed to skip. If you're a gym rat, you don't skip leg day,
No, you sure
right?
don't.
Um, if you're a business person, you don't skip a step.
No.
If you're a doctor, if you skip a step, somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah, they will.
If you're a banker and you skip a step, the review of your work and the review of the loan is going to be frowned upon.
Oh, it's a
Don't
ruthless
At
business.
least, at least,
don't.
at
At the
least
very
frowned
least.
upon.
I'm
Yeah.
just being kind, right? My
Yeah.
point is this: don't skip
No, that's a
anything.
very good piece of advice.
Yeah.
It is critical to everyone to remember, this thing is time limited and it's fleeting, and you give your heart and your soul to the things that matter.
Right.
Because there's a lot of
Absolutely.
nonsense floating in this world that doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? And your ability to feed your family, feed your soul are part of the things that matter. So, on that highly inspirational note, I thank you, Kevin, for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for
Charlie,
having me.
for
Very nice
Charlie
of
for
you.
being Charlie for being Charlie with that great head of hair. And I tell
Kevin's coming close.
he's pretty close. I tell
I'm
every
scared.
as I love to say, be good, be better, be best. Everyone have a great evening.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.